Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Turning Point podcast, the first episode for 2021, episode number 16. My name is Lara and I am joined here once again by Lewin. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing pretty damn good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. I tell you what, I've had a pretty busy week this week, because on Sunday I dropped my Tomb Raider 10th anniversary edition video.
I did see that pop up on the channel. Very
and
nice.
then on Monday we dropped the Turning Point relaunch for 2021. And then also on Monday I released a little video, which was just basically a really lazily put together video of like an edited down version of the conversation we had about me being trans on the relaunch, and then I just edited it down and added my own little bit, and I just chucked some Battlefront 2 gameplay in the background and just chucked it straight up on the channel. I made a thumbnail. It was literally like half an hour of work to get it up, but I did that on Monday as well, and since then, at the time of recording this, it's now 2 days later, and I had a lot of support. I've had a couple people, comment. I've had, weirdly, some one of my old school friends from, years that I haven't talked to in years reached out to me on Facebook yesterday, which I haven't replied to yet, but, reached out to me and was just like, you watch my videos? What the fuck? It was kind of like, what's going on? But yeah, so for those wondering why I introduced myself as Lara at the start of this episode, you can go back and watch that on my channel and listen. You can learn all about it. Basically, I'm trans, and there we go. Yeah, it's been pretty good, and it's just finally nice to, just get it out, because now I can actually focus on things like my voice, because I've been holding back on that because I've been wanting to get back into YouTube content, and I was kind of fiddling with that last year. And, I know I don't sound very feminine at the moment, but, it is what it is. I'll just work on it over time. But, it's just good to get it out, because it means I can actually do that now. And making videos and doing the podcast is a good way to, just getting the groove of talking a certain way. So, I was actually thinking about it earlier. I was like, oh man, because I spend most of my time at home editing for work, not really talking to anyone. I know it's sad, but that's just I work from home. At the moment I'm working from home, so it's I'm pretty much at home all the time, and then the only time when I'm talking with other people is when I'm out, right? So when I'm out, or and so I don't really have the time to actually practice it beyond talking to myself. So, recording a podcast for an hour or whatever is a great way just to kind of, do that. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want updates on everything relating to this podcast, and the future of Turning Point Entertainment, everything, we released a Turning Point relaunch episode, which you can find on podcast platforms, as well as my YouTube channel. We go into everything. We talk about the podcast, the changes coming to the podcast. We talk about, what else did we talk about? We talked about, we made some announcements in regards to just some changes in terms of new shows. I mean, I guess one of them isn't really a show. The Turning Point spoiler cast isn't really a new show. It's more just
it's separating
episodes.
It's separating our larger parts of commentary from this to something more focused on it.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Hey, it works.
I thought this year we should introduce, at the start of the episode, we should plug social medias rather than just do it at the very end.
I was gonna comment on that because this isn't the first time you've done this to me, but flipping the script on me.
Yeah, so if you do enjoy this content, then and you are listening to this on YouTube, we also are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever we're on now. The time of recording this, I haven't set any of that up, but it's only going to take a little bit to set up, so I might just do it a little bit later.
Last year all over again.
Yeah, but look, by the time this episode's up, they will all be available, so you can go check them out. Links are in the description below if you want to keep up to date with everything going on with my channel, the podcast streams, You can follow me over on Twitter at my new Twitter account, which is at RebelCroft. I post some hot takes every now and then, and by the way, these hot takes are about as hot as my hot takes on The Last of Us.
Yep.
But yeah, you know, it's if you want to keep up to date, we've got a Turning Point Instagram. You can head on over there. We'll start using that soon once some stuff is coming out to promote. But yeah, I'll tell you what though, Lewin, it's good to be back.
Yeah, for our first official
episode of the year. It's crazy. And for the people who haven't listened to the relaunch episode, you know, how was your break? How's things been going?
My break was pretty good. Obviously Christmas happened. New Year's. You know, 2021's going good for me so far. Just
that's
been
good.
Playing video games, going to work,
games.
The usual.
Yeah, same. I've been pretty much doing the same thing. A lot of prepping for the year. You know, I've started making I've got a big focus on YouTube this year, and so, you know, I made a video, like I said before, on the Tomb Raider 10th anniversary, because that was like a cancelled core design game from back in the day. This is before Tomb Raider Anniversary was made, and they cancelled that. And then this year, the actual game development files, were released on archive.org. By a Tomb Raider blog site who managed to somehow get their hands on the actual game development files for this cancelled game, and they released it on archive.org.
Can it be made into an actual?
It's playable. It literally,
wow.
It literally took less than 24 hours for it to be made playable.
Wow.
So basically, what happened was this Tomb Raider blog site got his hands on the Tomb Raider files, the game files last year. But before that, they decided to put them up online. They wanted to seek permission from Square Enix or Crystal Dynamics or whatever, to actually host the files and release them. So that's why they didn't release them straight away, and they never got any response from Crystal Dynamics, because obviously, you know, Square Enix now own the IP now, so you know, but they never got any response or anything. So they just decided to release it on the 1st of January. They just put it out there, and within 24 hours, a patch was made playable, so the levels were accessible. And yeah, it's been pretty good, and that's just been receiving constant updates since they've just released. I haven't checked this out, but literally the day I released my video on it, they released a new update, which is actually the PSP build of the game. Because the PSP build of the game actually has some extra stuff that the version that we've been working with now. So now Lara has her guns. There's actually T-Rexes and dinosaurs you can fight, like there is in the first level of the game. And
so this is an anniversary version of the first game?
Yeah. It's literally a remake of the first game.
That's pretty cool.
It's not Tomb Raider Anniversary. That's Crystal Dynamics, but it's literally pretty much just a accurate remake of the first game with updated textures and lighting. So it's not like a remaster, like it is built from the ground up, but it is very much a case of like it is just the first game, just looks a lot nicer.
That's okay.
But yeah, they've recently released that. I haven't played the PSP build yet because apparently it's very buggy, the PSP build. But yeah, if you want to know more about that, videos on my channel, you can head over. I've got lots of game footage there. What was really annoying is I recorded all of the footage. I played through every single level, and then they released a patch which updated the game to be able to be played in 60 FPS. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, I'm not re-recording all this footage. Fuck it, I want to get this video out. But apart from that, I haven't done much else.
Fair enough.
But I'll tell you what though, Lewin, let's just move into the catch-up segment here, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Because it kind of just flows together. But what have you been up to lately? Like anything you've been watching or playing, or
obviously
besides Doctor Who, because we'll talk about that in a sec.
Besides Doctor Who, which actually
and Cyberpunk.
Oh, okay, you've taken all my things.
Oh yeah, by the way, I should actually probably talk about what we're doing this episode. We're talking about Cyberpunk 2077. I kind of forgot that I need to actually talk about what we're doing in the episode.
Yes. Okay, besides Cyberpunk, I've been replaying Marvel Spider-Man, the PS5 release of it.
Okay, yeah. The PS5, yeah.
Yep, try and get used to the face. That's been pretty fun. It's enjoyable to play in 60 FPS.
Yeah, so you playing it with you're not playing so you're not playing with what's the it's fidelity mode's the one with ray tracing, right? But that's locked at 30 FPS.
Yeah, fidelity's locked at 30, but there's they released a patch that has better ray tracing and 60 FPS.
Right, okay.
So I've been using that one a lot of the time. Flows real smooth. It's a real nice game. Still, I mean, it was great on the PS4. But besides that, I just said don't mention Doctor Who. I've been watching the first Doctor on Britbox, and that's been a fun little experience.
Yeah,
I've been
thinking about getting Britbox. But,
I'm just running the free trial for the week just to get through as much as I can. I finished off the Daleks, the very first story.
Oh, it's good. I've got that on DVD.
So do I. I've that one with the Edge of Destruction back to Unearthly Child. Good little box set I've got there.
Yeah. It's not too bad. I quite enjoy that story, the first Dalek story. It's really good.
It's really weird the way they've changed things. Like they call the Daleks Dals and shit, and like the fouls are still there, and I'm just like, this was retcon to oblivion. But no,
that's right. Doctor Who doesn't have any continuity, so it's fine.
I just keep going. How do I ever make this fit? Is this a retrospective timeline? A new timeline? I'm like, it's Doctor Who. Why the fuck am I trying?
Just don't think about it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been what I've been doing. It's been pretty fun.
Oh, nice. I've been checking out. I mean, I haven't been doing much. Like, replaying through Tomb Raider 1. Because that's going to be my first like official episode of the Tomb Raider retrospective. So I've been doing that. Fuck, that game is hard.
I got killed by wolves. That's my most recent memory, and that was about 7 years ago.
Yeah, so I'm replaying through that, but I've got like a mod that like, because I'm recording footage for my video, which hopefully by the time I finish it, hopefully it would be out in like May or something. But because I'm recording footage, I want it to be the best quality it can. So I am playing it on PC, and I've got like some HD texture mods and things on. So it looks really crisp and looks really good. Obviously, it still looks like a 90s game. Like, it doesn't change the graphics or anything, but it just looks really crisp. So that's going to be good for the footage for the video. But I've been playing that. What else have I been doing? I've been playing Hitman 1.
Good game. I've also been playing Hitman 1.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be streaming Hitman 2 soon. Once I finish Assassin's Creed 2, I'm going to stream Hitman 2. So I want to just play through.
This is Hitman 2016, not Silent Assassin from back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, I'm just kind of hoping people will just know what we're talking about.
I like to clarify over the Hitman series.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I've been playing through that, and that's been a lot of fun. I've been quite enjoying that. And now that I've finished Cyberpunk, like I'm kind of I'll talk about this later, but I've kind of reached the point where I'm kind of cyberpunked out at the moment, so I'm like moving on to the next game, and that's going to be Nier Automata when I eventually install that to start playing it. But at the moment I've just been enjoying just playing a bit of Hitman here and there and replaying some of the missions and doing all like mission stories and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that game. It's complete bullshit at times. Like, you'd be doing something and some guy fucking sees you and you're like, how? How did you see that?
My favorite NPC is in the Paris mission. It's the one guard who knows who you are, even as when you're just in the suit. He'll get suspicious of you if
is
you're
that
just
in like
walking around.
the walkway area? And
it's
like
off to the
on
right
side?
of the walkway.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Fucking bullshit. You're trying to walk through there and he's like, hold on. You're like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I really enjoy those games. There's a lot of replayability, and this is the first time I've actually like played them as well. So I'm really having a lot of fun with that. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing lately.
That's cool.
I did watch I watched a video on the Queen's Gambit, and I was like, I have to watch this series now. So I actually watched through the entirety of The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, and that's a really good show.
I do plan on watching it.
Like, it's a really well shot show, well made, well directed. Like, just the filmmaking aspects of it are really good. Like, I was like, obviously it's just about chess, and there's a lot of chess games in this show, but like the way each chess game is shot is so unique and different. Like, it's just so really well done. That each chess game never feels repetitive, or it like feels like the samey. Like, they all feel different. And I think as the chess games progress too, as the series progresses, the stakes get higher as well. So there's a lot of stakes riding on. But yeah, it's just like, rather than shooting it the same boring way, like, you literally have chess games that are shot, just everything shot differently. It's really good. It's a really good fucking show. So I definitely recommend checking that out.
I do plan on that.
I really want to go more into detail on. There's not really much I want to say, but I just
Fair
want to say it's really fucking good. Do you know what we both been watching? And I just want to bring this up quickly here.
Yeah.
Is we both been watching Wandavision.
Yes, we have.
And so at the time of recording this, there's been 4 episodes released. By the time this drops, probably the 5th episode would be out by now. But it's a really good show, man.
It is.
I really love it.
I just like it because it's not your typical Marvel formula. It feels distinctly Marvel, but it's got some. It feels fresh, which is much needed in the MCU.
Yeah. And I really like the most recent episode too. You know, when I because I did read the synopsis for the episode, and I was like, oh fuck, I don't really want to watch this. I'm not interested in this. You know, just let me have my 80s, because that's where they're up to in the show right now. It's like the 80s or whatever. And I'm like, let me just have my 80s fucking sitcom with Wanda and Vision where I just don't know what the fuck's going on. But they had this kind of episode that I guess just kind of explains what the fuck's going on, but still leaves like a few questions unanswered. But in the most recent episode, it was kind of revealed that, you know, it's like Wanda doing all of this, which I thought was kind of interesting. I'm like, so does that make Wanda the villain? Is she like the bad guy here? Because, you know, like the first few episodes, they have like, you know, it's just all in like that sitcom environment.
Yeah.
And then there's like the little bit at the end where like, you know, there's that person sitting, which turns out to be Kat Dennings for some reason, because she's in this show from Thor.
Yeah, that took me back for a second.
And then like the 4th episode, we find out that, you know, it is actually Wanda the one that's doing all this, and Wanda's aware that it's all fake. Like, all these little bits we've seen are just people trying to get into the town to figure out what the fuck's going on. And I really like that kind of like subversion, and because like the first episodes make out that like there's this external force, there's, you know, like this could be like a controlled experiment, or, you know, like something's going on here. And because we see it all from Wanda's point of view as well, it's like, you know, she's trying to, like, there's strange things happening and she can't quite piece it together. And, like, as the audience, we don't know what's going on. And then in episode 4, they're like, no, it's Wanda projecting this alternative reality in this town that she's essentially holding hostage.
So she's like, she's also forcing herself, by the looks of it, from what we got, forcing herself not to. She thinks it's real, or she's forcing herself to think it's real until she's faced with the reality that it's not.
Yeah, no, she's living this like in this, you know, she's living this like weird life.
World.
But then as soon as something comes that threatens that, you know, she gets very, and like I like that we actually see, you know, some moments from the previous episodes, but play out in the perspective of the people from the outside.
Yeah.
You know, I love the idea that, you know, Wanda is projecting this on like television for some reason. It's like an actual sitcom, but then there's like bits where like bits are cut out, like it's being edited. I really like it. It's a good show. I'm quite intrigued. I will say I'm a bit annoyed that they revealed like episode 4 took place when it did, like I kind of feel like they should really play on the whole sitcom thing for a little bit longer before they start getting into what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I like about WandaVision is like I just like that it's just this random fucking sitcom show that we just have no idea what the fuck is actually going on, and I actually like that, and I really wish they kept that going.
I think
for at least another maybe few episodes, and then kind of towards the end.
I think this is only meant to be... I could be off base here. I think this is only meant to be 8 episodes, so we're at the halfway point now.
It's like Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Mandalorian's
so
only 8.
I guess by the halfway point, you kind of want to... Maybe 1 or 2 episodes more before the reveal. At least get to the 9.
Yeah, I would have liked it maybe like episode 6, and then 7 and 8 is kind of thing. Because like the one thing I will say about this show is the only thing that interests me about it is the whole sitcom format, and the whole idea of like they're in the 50s, they're in the 60s, you know, they're in the 70s, 80s, whatever. You know, anytime I watched the trailer for this show, anytime it was like in the present day and it was like Wanda flying around and Vision flying around, I was like, I just don't care about this. Like, I just want my fucking 50s sitcom. That's all I care about.
The gimmick is what makes it.
So, you know, I'm a little worried that like I'm gonna lose interest in the show when it actually kind of picks up and, you know, it kind of moves away from that format.
I reckon we got a couple more sitcom episodes in it.
I think, but I think I'm just gonna lose interest in, but I will say though, I thought I was gonna have zero interest in episode 4, but I actually found that episode really interesting. But I don't know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But do you know what else we've been watching? We've been watching Doctor Who. The episodes, I'll be more specific, the New Year's special released on New Year's Day, Revolution of the Daleks. What did you think of it?
I liked it. It's not top... It feels close to top tier Chris Chibnall, which is harsh to say.
Honestly, like, I'm gonna be straight up, I genuinely think this is probably Chris Chibnall's best script, and I said exactly the same thing about Revolution. There's some issues I take with it, but I genuinely think it's probably his best one. Even though I don't have much to say about this episode.
Pretty much, it's an episode.
What happens in it? Let's see. So there's...
the Doctor is in prison.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Alright, you know what? I do have something to say about this episode, Lewin.
Yeah?
What the fuck?
What
the actual fuck were they thinking? Why would you put the Doctor in prison and then literally do nothing with that plotline
it was really
whatsoever?
hand-waved, and that was annoying.
Literally, like, 15 minutes into the episode, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was, the Doctor's out of prison. And, like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah,
I loved, like, everything in the opening 20 minutes where the Doctor was in prison was really good. I liked that. I mean, I think this episode would have been great if it was an episode focused on the Jack and the Doctor getting out of prison or whatever.
Yep.
And then on Earth, we're dealing with the fallout of Series 12 from the Companion's perspective, and then it's just like a character piece for the Companions. So rather than them being directly involved with the story, it's more of like we see a bit of that. We see how Yaz is like searching for the Doctor, or like trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah. And we see how, like, Ryan, you know, has kind of reached a point where he's, like, doesn't want to travel anymore. And then, you know, with Graham's kind of in the middle, which, to be honest, Graham's reasoning for leaving the TARDIS was fucking bullshit. But, like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like it was just a wasted idea. And I'm just annoyed. Like, it was such a good idea, and then, like, throw the Doctor in prison. Fuck yeah. And it's a great way to explore her character, because Series 12 did fucking nothing with the Timeless Child in terms of how it affected the Doctor whatsoever.
Yeah, the 13th Doctor's character moments in this episode, her personality is at its, I would argue, its peak in this episode.
There's a great scene between Ryan and the Doctor, which I really love.
Yeah.
In the TARDIS. Like, there's some great scenes in this.
It's just all patchwork together. It doesn't have a straight idea.
Yeah. And this is what I say, like, I do think this is Christian Bale's best script in terms of character writing, in terms of, which is weird to say since he wrote fucking Broadchurch. Like, he should be good at character writing. Anyway, Revolution of the Daleks. Look, I like the idea of it. There's a lot of like, I like that it's a sequel to Resolution. Like, and I'm like, if we're not going to do Christmas specials anymore, I like the idea of maybe having like a trilogy of New Year's specials, or like, one or two that like have a continuing story. I wouldn't want every year to be a continuation, and I'm really glad, like one year we had Spyfall, as like the introduction. But I like that this is a sequel to that story, and I like that there's, the recurring ideas of the Daleks taking over the humans and whatnot.
Yeah.
This episode, another wasted idea, and I know Doctor Who has done this before, so I'm not really too mad about it, but I would have liked more of it, and that is the concept of a Dalek civil war. With the Daleks versus the impure Daleks, and also, like, look, I get the Dalek design. It's fine.
I like it.
In the context of this story, it's fine. But I'm glad that the other Daleks just obliterated them, because it doesn't work as a continuing design. It's like the design, how when they redesigned the Dalek
the fucking
for Resolution.
Paradigm. Oh no, that one. Okay.
No, the Resolution. Like the security guard drones are based off that design, which makes sense because these are drones that are being manufactured on Earth, based on that. The question I want to know is, and I know that, I guess the Big Bang retconned a lot of the RTD era, but like, how does no one at this point know what a Dalek fucking is?
I don't think the
like,
Daleks
how does
have ever
no
shown
one
up.
at any point, when they're making these security drones, go, you know what? I was alive in 2008, and I don't think this is a good idea, boys.
I'm fairly sure that the entirety of Journey's End and Stolen Earth was retconned by the Big Bang.
It's just dumb.
Yeah,
because then it's like what retcons it and what's retconned and what doesn't, because it's still in continuity. So it's like there's the Big Bang just kind of happened, and then they're like, oh yeah, just don't worry, any inconsistencies we can just blame it on the Big Bang and just say, it's just the Big Bang.
The Big Bang is the 11th Doctor equivalent of the Time War, because whenever people are like, wait, why doesn't anybody know any classic Who stuff, people are like, oh yeah, Time War. Except the Time War is a much more fitting reason.
I think it's dumb. I think, but you know what? It's fine. It serves the story. We need to have a Dalek story, so it's fine. But I just find it very odd that no one at any point was like, maybe this isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Although I will say, Donald Trump, he did have his little moment where he's like, you know what, this is a bad idea. Not in referring to the drones, but in referring to the cloning of the Dalek. I'm like, what the fuck is this character? One, what the fuck is this character doing in this story in the first place? But two, I actually like this character in this story. He actually works in this story.
I'm gonna be controversial and say I actually really like Chris Noth in both episodes.
I just think Arachnids in the UK is shit.
It is shit, but I like him in the episode.
I don't like him. I actually think his character's terrible. One thing I hate is the constant bits of dialogue or the constant things that keep alluding to the fact that he's meant to be Donald Trump. It's like, yes, I get it. I get it, Chris. I get that he's meant to be Donald Trump. You don't need to keep reminding me of that. But I like his inclusion in this episode. I think it works for this episode. He's not a character I ever want to see as a recurring character again. Like, I think he works for this story, and I like, fuck him off. Like, it's fine. We don't need to see him again. But Chris can do what he wants, I guess. But I don't know. Like, this episode's really good. And let's talk about Jack. Jack's in this episode. Captain Jack is back again.
Feels underused though. Just gonna put that one out there.
Yeah, he kind of just is in the episode, isn't he? He's just kind of there. Like, I feel like he's there just to give that speech to Yaz, and then that's about it.
I just find it weird because he's the one person who can't give that speech to Yaz. He's the only person who can track down the doc. Oh, well, River can too, but But also, like, he's talking about how,
I mean, although actually, I do like that the speech kind of makes sense for him because, you know, he did have to live like 100 or so years before meeting the Doctor again.
True.
Through Earth history. Like, and also like a really bad time in Earth's history as well, the fucking 20th century. So, like, I mean, I get where he's coming from, but I'm also like it feels like his entire inclusion in this episode is just so he can give that speech. Like, I feel like he serves no other purpose.
Yeah.
But it is cool in there. Like, John Barrowman does really well, as always. He's really good in this episode. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about it. I just think it's, like, wasted ideas. You know, Dalek Civil War, Doctor in prison, great stuff. Wasted.
Yeah.
Wasted. They absolutely just destroy all the Daleks straight away. I do like the parallels to some older RTD episodes, though, in the terms of, like, the idea of Dalek purity. Like, I think that's kind of cool. And, you know, like, that's a great thing to have it, like, the beings, like, the Daleks that just hate everything that isn't Dalek. The idea of them turning on each other, you know, like, that comes down to that purity, and I love that idea so much. And then, like, they've done, like, bits of that in the past. You know, obviously we have what's the 7th Doctor episode called? Is it
Remembrance of the Daleks?
Remembrance of the Daleks, that's it. You know, we have, like, the Daleks factions and civil wars, and that's so cool, and I just wish they, you know, did that.
Yeah. But it's more of a last 5-minute thing, and you're like,
yeah,
it was cool while it happened.
What else happens in the episode?
That's about it.
I mean, obviously this is the companion departure, which I think for Ryan makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, I actually really like the idea, and I like that a companion doesn't have a tragic ending for once.
Yeah, he just,
you know,
wants
it's
to
just
go.
like, yeah. He's just like, oh, go see me mates. I'm like, who are your mates? We've never met them. I know we've met one of them at one point, but, like, do we remember that really? Like, you know, but it's fine. It's fine. You know, he wants to stop traveling or whatever. I do like Yaz is good to say. I'm not a big fan of Graham. Like, I get why Graham's left. He's like, I want to be with my grandson, and that makes sense. But also, it's like, it feels like Graham's departure, like the reasoning for it was just tacked on, because they built Ryan's departure up throughout the whole episode, right? Like, we have, you know, those scenes with him and the Doctor, and, you know, he does allude to the fact that he doesn't want to travel anymore now that she's back. You know, he doesn't outright say it, but he alludes to it, and you have those conversations, and the whole episode's focusing on Ryan's departure, and then Graham's just, like, last minute, like he's all good to go, you know, like, he's on the TARDIS, he's ready to go, and as soon as Ryan's like, I don't want to go, he's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to go either, you know. And it's just like, I mean, that's a really shit reason, like, not shit reason, but it's, like, really terribly written in my view. Like, I don't mind him leaving, like I said, narratively it makes sense, but it's just kind of tacked on. It's not like, it
didn't have enough build up to have a satisfying a hit.
Yeah.
It doesn't hit you the same way. I'll admit, I was, as much as I've not given a single shit about Ryan for 2 seasons, they got me to feel a little twinge of something when he went. I was like, oh shit, why did all of your characters show up in this final episode?
See, I just didn't care.
I cared.
I didn't care at all. I was like, okay, cool, you know. But yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
Last thing I say,
it was fine.
There was one parallel that I did enjoy. It was before Ghost Grace, was the bike riding, just the parallel at the very beginning. I enjoyed that.
That was fitting.
Yeah. And now we're
it's
on
a fitting ending. And then Grace appeared, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what is going on? Why?
I thought we were over this about a season ago. But,
oh, Jesus. I mean, we were over both of their character arcs a season ago.
Yeah. And now I get to watch Yaz and the new Graham character, Dan.
I'm really annoyed. They should never have introduced a new companion, in my view.
Oh, no. I'm happy about it.
I'm like, develop the fucking characters you have, and then introduce new
characters.
I've
had them prove to me that they can't develop characters, so...
Yeah. Anyway, that's
Revolution of the Daleks.
Doctor Who. Yeah, it was on TV. It was good. I know we talked a lot of shit, but, like, I genuinely think it was a decent episode. It has a lot of problems, but it was decent.
Yeah.
You know? It was better than other episodes, so it's good. I really like both New Year's specials. They've both been really good. Yeah. So, yeah. But now let's move on to Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, okay. So, let's just get. We'll do spoilers and then non-spoilers, because I have thought. Hold on, let me just close this thing that was open on my phone. I have thoughts on some of the endings.
I have no thoughts because I've not hit the endings, but go for it, fam. I don't. Well, that's care.
Right. I'm gonna spoil them. So
go for it, fam. I don't care.
But we'll get to that later. But we'll do non-spoilers first. But before we jump in, let's just quickly, and I mean very quickly, let's just address the elephant in the room. What a shit show!
The game was a buggy launch. It was a shit launch. We're not gonna talk about it.
Also, CD Projekt Red. Mate, what's going on? Like what happened?
Yeah.
What happened? Like, I mean, this is an ongoing story, but like considering the fact that like developers were like, this is not going to be ready until at least 2022. And they were all like, why the fuck are you announcing this game coming out in 2020? In April of 2020, or whenever it was meant to come out originally.
Yeah.
Like...
It's bad when it did come out. I don't want to know what it was going to be like in April of 2020.
Oh my god. Like, how did this happen? Like, I mean, I'm sure the devs would probably try... Like, I mean, we know why this happened. Like, obviously. But, like... like, the devs are, like, trying to... and now it's just fucked everything up because... like now instead of working on the DLCs and expansions that they were planning on working on, they now have to spend a year fixing the fucking game to get it to a point where it should have been released in the first place. Like, look, listen, AAA games, and this is just, I want to just make a comment about the larger industry as a whole rather than just the Cyberpunk situation.
Yep.
But like, look, pretty much every AAA game releases buggy. Like, pretty much this is the point we're at with this. Like, obviously there's the odd exceptions here and there, like, like Last, as much as
Last of Us 2 was a pretty tight game.
It was a solidly built game, like it was solid. And you get those games, but the majority of games that come out are buggy now.
Yeah.
They're not finished, and this is one of the most egregious examples. But, like, it is, it's just the reality of the industry we're in now. And it's just like, man, like, I know bug game, like, I'm sure, like, I know that obviously you can't get every single bug. And obviously there's going to be bugs in games when they launch and things like that. Like, I get that. But we're just it's just weird. Like, it just seems like every game is undercooked these days. And I'm not even just talking about bugs. I'm talking about systems. The police system in this game doesn't work. It's like it's not even been implemented into the game.
You can drive a street away, and the cops will forget about you.
Yeah, and they just spawn in, like just right next to you. Sometimes you can see them spawn in front of you. Sometimes, like it's just like that. It's very clear that system is nowhere near where they want it to be. Because they were talking about these systems. There's a lot of systems that they talked about. And here's the thing, like, I want to be honest, because, like, with all these developer videos, the Night City Wires and all of that, which we were covering last year, these were things that developers were talking about, right? They were talking about vehicle customization. They were talking about, the NPCs in the game. They were talking about the police system and all these kind of different systems. But, I mean, and I know that it comes across as lying about systems that aren't in the game currently, but I don't fully believe, I don't fully think the developers that were in these videos are lying. Like, I think there's systems that they are working on that they want to be in the game, but they're just being like, no, we need to release the game now. And they're like the AI, for example, they were talking about AI. The AI is garbage.
Yep.
It's utter garbage. They walk around in circles. They don't have predetermined paths. They don't have, they're not going to react. They're like, there's some of the worst AI I've seen in games. And I don't think that their claims of the world having AI are false. I think that's their intention, but they're just not there yet. They're not ready. the AI is not ready. You know,
This-
like, so this is just another
The
example
Nazi
of
Wise
just things.
feels like the hype talk that happens like a year or two after a game is announced,
Yeah.
not something that happens 7 years into development.
Well, here's the thing: like, the game didn't officially start development till 2016.
Isn't
Okay.
that when they massively changed focus on it?
Yeah, but even then, they changed focus for what the game was going to be, but they hadn't really started developing. Like, they were in like pre-development stage. Like, you know, like, I mean, we would have been talking about things like writing and like kind of coming up with concepts and things like
Yeah.
that. But at the time, they were developing Witcher
Yeah.
still. And you got to also remember, before Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red was a smaller studio. With The Witcher 3, they were a smaller studio than what they are now. And, you know, so with the success of The Witcher 3, you know, they were able to bring more people on board to work on this project. But yeah, like, they didn't officially start development until 2016. You got to remember, there was months at a time where they were working on a demo. They weren't even developing the game as well. They were developing that E3 2018 demo that, we know, obviously we now know was all faked, but they were developing that specifically rather than working on the game. So they were developing features. Not to mention, they were also developing a game engine, a completely new game engine, at the same time as developing a game. And that's not normally how it works. Normally, they develop the engine first, and then they make the game, right?
Yeah.
That's usually how it works, but they were doing both at the same time. It's just a shit show. The whole development stories and everything is a shit show.
I think a large factor into this, and this shouldn't affect AAA. AAA shouldn't let this affect it, but they all fucking do now. Early access games are my biggest fucking pet peeve in the industry. And I blame them for a lot of this. You should
Yeah.
not be allowed to release an entire game and then just go, oh, I'll fix it later. Because you'll just fuck off with the money. And
Yeah,
it's been
exactly.
proven to work. So fucking EA, Activision, and all the other fucking companies are like, yeah, we can get away with this now.
Yeah, it's all shitty, and like, unfortunately, this is, and like here's the thing, and I want to preface this. Like I said in my video that I did last year, and I still stand by this. Like, Cyberpunk is one of my absolute favorite games that came out last year. I think it's one of the best games that came out last year, just in terms of content. Like, and I know the content's not finished, but I mean the substance. All right, but in terms of the game, obviously, it should never have been released. But also, like, I get why people are like, well, I'm not going to play this now, because, you know, Cyberpunk, like, any legacy this game could have had, and I genuinely believe this probably would have been one of the greatest games of all time if it were released when it was done under different, so like, could you imagine riding off the back of The Witcher 3?
This
Which, by the way, also released buggy, but you know, like that game was still pretty solid on launch. Like, I mean, I didn't play it on launch, but I do know that game was very solid.
I enjoyed
even
that
though
game
it was
quite
still
well,
a bit of a buggy mess. Where this, and like, to be honest, The Witcher 3 is still buggy, but like, it's buggy in funny ways. Where like, Cyberpunk's just clearly, at the very least, a year away from being ready to release.
Yeah. I've never had a game do to me what... I mean, 3 crashes in 24 hours, that was a new record. That was pretty fun.
So here's the thing. Okay, so I'm playing, just for context, I played this game on PC. So I definitely had a smoother experience. I had literally 0 crashes the entire time I played through the campaign. The only time I started getting crashes was after I finished the campaign, when I was actually, because once I finished the campaign the first time, I was like, okay, I'll install some mods now, and the mods did cause quite a few crashing issues.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the actual game itself, I never had crashes.
I
With that said, though, every time I clicked exit game and the game closed, it came up with the little crash window. So I think the game was crashing when I was closing the game for some reason. But like, when I was playing it, it wasn't crashing. I never had that issue.
So I'll preface my things with, I was playing the PS4 build on the PS5, which is smoother than the PS4 version, but obviously it's still trying to emulate that.
Yeah, and it's completely tarnished their reputation. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think CD Projekt Red is ever going to come back from this.
Yeah, they can release good
not
games.
Not to
and
the
people
extent
will-
they were before.
Yeah.
You know, like, people are going to be very cautious about the next Witcher game.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because we do know another Witcher game is coming. I mean, I think it's fucking probably years down the line. Because now they've got to fix this game. They've got to release the DLCs. Plus, there's a multiplayer version of Cyberpunk coming later on down the line as well.
They overreached.
Which I reckon probably would have been out, like, because they did say that the multiplayer version of Cyberpunk's not going to come out for years. Like, it's going to be several years later on down the line. In other words, it's a separate game.
Yeah.
But, like, I reckon that's going to be at least 2023 before we see that now. 2023 before we even hear. Maybe 2022 we might hear about it, but, like, it's going to be at least 2023 or 2024 before we see it. Which means the next Witcher game's probably not going to be, like, for another 10 years. You know, like, it's going to be a long time before we get another Witcher game. And it's going to be a situation where everyone's just going to be cautious. Like, everyone's going to be like, we don't know about this. Everyone's going to be very cautiously. Like, I hope and I do believe, you know, if anyone can turn this around, CD Projekt, the development team specifically, can turn this around because they've got some very talented people working there, and I think they will turn this around. But I think just in terms of just their reputation, man, like, it's just fucked.
Yeah,
it's CD Projekt Red is never going to be what CD Projekt Red was a year ago. Yeah, it's it's a shame. It's a shame. That's what it is.
They had this Cyberpunk is probably still gonna, I don't know anymore actually, the anime that they announced for it.
Oh yeah, that's right. They announced an anime for it.
Yeah,
it's going to coming to Netflix.
And so now my thought is, what's happening with that?
Well, that's going to be made by, you know,
that's like a Japanese studio doing it.
Yeah, it's going to be a separate thing. Like, this has nothing to do with the game. Like, I mean, if they're doing that, like, I reckon what's happening, because I reckon the writers would be working on that, because the writers aren't going to be involved in fixing this game. Like, they've done their job. They've written the game. So I think they're going to work on that, and then the rest of the development team is going to work on fixing the game, and we'll probably still get that. But that wasn't coming out until, like, next year anyway.
Yeah, no, it just throws things. Watching one thing associated with another, it's like when Rise of Skywalker fucking bombed, and you're like, what happens to Star Wars from here on out? But, you know, it's a big impact. That's it.
Yeah.
But no, let's move on to...
I think we should move on, and let's talk about the actual game.
Yes.
Let's talk about the actual game. We'll keep it spoiler free. We'll just throw out some quick thoughts. Not that I have much
to spoil.
Yeah, I know. What are your thoughts so far? Like, let's start with, like, so you said you're playing this on PS4. So how much of the game have you played?
I am at the beginning of Act 2. So I'm about maybe 10 hours into the game, roughly.
Roughly about that, yeah. Give or take.
My thoughts so far are, in many ways, I dislike that I had to do this for the podcast. Anybody who watched the podcast all throughout last year may remember that my thoughts on this game were negative to, like, semi-neutral at best. The closest I got to excited again was when the first Night City Wire happened.
Yeah, and we covered that.
Yeah.
On the podcast. Yeah.
So that was the closest I got to positive, because that was when I was like, oh, I'm actually anticipating this game again.
Well, not just that, we were actually seeing things, like, from the game. Like, that was really the first time we'd actually seen, because we'd seen that demo beforehand, and we'd seen, like, some trailers, but this was, like, the first time we were actually getting, like, a breakdown of, like, this is what the game is, you know?
Yeah, I wasn't just relying off 7 years of build-up of nothing. Because I saw the trailer back in 2013. So,
same.
That's why I keep saying 7 years for game development, because that's when I associate the starting of the game. But yeah, pre-running and all that. But
that was all that literally was just an announcement. Like, they were just like, this is what we're working on, but hang on, guys, we've got to finish Witcher 3 first. You know, that's what that was.
Yeah.
And that's why we just didn't see or hear anything about it for years, because, you know, they were making The Witcher 3, and that's a big game.
Yeah. But
It's bigger than Cyberpunk.
I'll admit when I first got the game and all the press was on about it, I felt this weird sense of vindication in my thoughts, and it felt bad to say because I was like, I was actually right in some regards, but I shouldn't think that way.
Yeah, no,
because...
I remember you. I remember you saying when I can't remember which episode it was, but you were like, you know what, like CD Projekt Red's overrated.
That's my problem. Is
I think you said Witcher 3 was overrated or something.
no, I don't think it's overrated. I think it's overhyped.
Yeah,
Because every time you
like,
go on the internet, someone's like, Witcher 3 is the best game of all time. I'm like, but
I mean, look, like, listen, to be completely fair, like, I think it is one of the best games
I'm
to
not
release
gonna argue.
in the past decade.
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
not gonna argue.
I think it's
I
like,
do love Witcher
like when
3.
you think about the past 10 years of gaming, like The Witcher 3 is a fucking highlight, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I love The Witcher 3.
And it's actually in spoilers for a video I'm gonna make one day, but it's in my top 10 favorite games.
That's fully understandable.
Like I don't know exactly where it sits. I can't remember where I put it, but it's in there. Like, I love that game so
it's just
much.
I hate going every fucking 3 hours and seeing a comment going, "Oh, it's the best game of all time." Like, can you shut up about it? I'm a person who hates constant repetition of one thing. It gets oversaturated to a point where I'm like, I just don't care anymore. So people got really hyped for CD Projekt Red, and I just always thought that was a recipe for disaster. It's like, don't transfer one game to the whole studio.
Yeah.
But
what are your thoughts on, like, so you've played Act 1.
I played Act 1.
So essentially, like, I'm just gonna put this very bluntly, you haven't played this game, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
And not because you've only played like 10 hours. Like, I mean, like, literally Act 1 is so fucking disconnected from the rest of the game that like you barely played it. Like, but like, what were your thoughts? Like, because obviously, like, Act 1 is basically like, you know, you're introduced to the game's mechanics. So you would have been introduced to you know, shooting. You would have been introduced to stealth. You would have been introduced to hacking.
I got most of the gameplay mechanics, I would say.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, so
the core
like,
fundamentals.
How do you feel about the gameplay?
Okay. Gameplay itself, it's serviceable.
And keep it quick, because we're actually going to talk about it in a sec.
Gameplay itself
just,
is
like,
serviceable. It's your
ignoring the
standard
bugs
shooter.
and, like,
yeah. I don't... It just feels... It kind of feels... It reminds me of Watch Dogs. It's simple for what it is.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. And I may be going into this with the completely wrong mindset because I've been negative from the get-go. But it's just... I feel like I guess
going
promised...
in with negativity can impact, I guess, how you...
I will say...
but also, like...
I will preface.
You know.
I went in with negativity. I'm still fairly negative, but not about everything. This game has some fucking highlights. For sure. The gameplay, the shooting and the driving and all that, that's not one of them. I've got Battlefield, I've got even COD. I've got those for shooting. This is just... It's an attempt. A decent to good attempt.
It was an attempt. See, okay, so, like, I mean, we're gonna... Basically, the way I've structured this review is we'll do our spoiler-free thoughts on the game, and then we'll talk about the gameplay. Because I've got a lot to say, because obviously I have, at the time of recording this, 92 hours.
Okay.
So, you know...
Okay, so we're on the spoiler-free thoughts at the moment, not the gameplay part?
No, yeah, I just wanted to ask you how you feel about it, you know, kind of going into it.
In terms of the opening 10 hours before the second fucking title screen, what the fuck? It was... The world itself is kind of flat. I don't care much for Night City. I'm just learning that I felt the same way about Deus Ex, and a lot of people love Deus Ex, and that actually is a great game. But I'm learning Cyberpunk, it just isn't my scene. So that's no bearing on the game itself. It's a very nice looking world.
It's very pretty. Like, Cyberpunk 2077 is like, it's just designed for photo mode.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. Like, it's a very pretty world, and it's great. It's like actually a really nice world to explore because there's so much to see in terms of just like the visual side of it.
Yeah, but my problem is
obviously there's not really much to fucking do.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to see. You know, there's a lot of style over substance with this.
That's what it comes down to for me. Is I kind of wish there was a little less focus on style, a little more focus on substance, because you do the same 4 fucking side quests over and over again of go here, kill people, leave, go here, steal this, leave, and like they're fun, but there's way too many of them on the map. There's like fucking 30 in the top area of the first area alone.
Yeah.
And
so you would have just gotten up to the part 2 where you've actually unlocked
the rest of the map.
Because
so,
for the first like part of the game, there's like this weird, I think it's like some quarantine. Yeah. There's a lockdown and you can't go anywhere. It kind of reminds me of the old GTA games where they just block off the bridges for no reason. But yeah, I mean, like, look, here's my spoiler-free thoughts, and like we are both like, I think, like, obviously, like, you've played only X amount.
I focused more on side content before the main story, because I always do that with games.
And let's say straight up spoiler-free thoughts on the story of this game. The side content is where it's at, and I know you just were whinging about the side content.
Oh, no,
I'm
no,
not
no.
talking about the side content you're talking about.
Yeah, no,
I know what you're talking about, and we're gonna get into it. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've played a few
side quests, right? And I do enjoy those side quests. The writing in those is good. It's the fucking fetch quest bullshit that clutters up the rest of the map.
It's what I call the busy work.
It reminds me of just fucking old Assassin's Creeds, and this game is most comparable to Watch Dogs for me. Honestly.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of current Assassin's Creed, actually.
You know what? You got a fair point. That is also. Yeah.
Let's talk about how Valhalla is ridiculously long. And I haven't even played it. And guess what? I have zero intention on playing it now because I wanted to. I was interested. Because I was like, oh, there's a lot of like Assassin's Creed mechanics back in the game. It's really cool.
But the story's like,
and then I found out it's ridiculously long. I also found out that Eivor as a character doesn't give a shit about the assassins. Ubisoft doesn't give a shit about the assassin. The one assassin that's in the game is fucking Loki. And it's just like, what the fuck is this game about? Like, why is this not about Assassins and Templars? Why is this about fucking reincarnated Isu who have beef with each other? That's what the game's about. And it's just like, yeah, it's garbage. My point is the game is ridiculously long. And one thing I will say about Cyberpunk is it's got a lot of busy work to extend the gameplay a bit. But in terms of like how long it actually takes to finish this game, and I'm not even talking about doing just the side content, like I'm talking about the main story. Yeah. I'm talking about doing the side content. I finished the game, I got up to the final mission the first time I played, like I finished my playthrough. I was only about 50 hours in, and I'd done most of the side content and most of that. So I will say, and that's not a criticism of the game, because they did actually say that Cyberpunk would be a shorter game than The Witcher 3. So that's not like a problem. Like, I know a lot of people like complain about this, but they were very transparent about the fact that this is going to be a shorter game than what The Witcher 3 was, because a lot of people was expecting, hundreds of hours of content. But, like, they came out and said this in 2019. They literally said in 2019 at some point, there was, like, an article, and they're like, this game is only going to be about, the campaign's only going to be about 30 hours long. And there's going to be side content, but it's going to be a much shorter, more condensed experience. And I do think this works better. And I want more open world games to be like Cyberpunk. I want more open world games to just be these condensed things. There's a lot of busy work, and I hate it, but I want it to be more condensed in terms of story. Like, let's just have a simple 20-30 hour campaign, few side content, bits of side content that can extend that by, like, say 10-20 hours, whatever, and then that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not interested in playing hundreds of hours of fucking Assassin's Creed. You know what I mean?
We've been over
playing
your feelings of...
I've been playing Assassin's Creed 2 recently on stream. It's so good.
Yeah, AC2 is still the highlight for me.
Like, it's so good. Like, why aren't more Assassin's Creed games like AC2? You know? Like, anyway, like, what I'm saying is, this game's good in terms of, like, its length. I think this game is a nice length. But I will say, when it comes to spoiler-free thoughts on the story, the side content is where this game's at. Like, 100%, like, this game is in the side content. Like, pretty much every character quest line you do is, like, and these quest lines are presented as optional side content. It's compulsory. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, if you play Cyberpunk, it's mandatory you play the side content. It's mandatory. It's not a decision of whether you want to or not. Like, and I'm talking about, like, the big, like, character quest lines that you haven't got up to yet, Lewin, but you will get to soon.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
It's mandatory. Like, you have to play them. I don't want to hear fucking excuses. Fucking play them.
I plan to.
Alright? Because they're so good. Like, every single, like, Panam's quest line is so good. I love it so much. But I will say, in terms of the main campaign and my spoiler-free thoughts, just to wrap up, are... it's not as deep as I would like from a cyberpunk genre story. There's certainly some great moments in the campaign, but yeah, in terms of like the themes that the cyberpunk genre presents, and you know the hard-hitting questions that the cyberpunk genre forces upon the audience, because that's the whole point of the cyberpunk genre, right? It's meant to be, you know, questioning the audience and posing questions.
Yeah, it's like, this is what the future it could be. Is this actually what you want?
Well, not just that. It's like, you know, posing questions about, you know, identity and, you know, like what makes us
if you
human.
replace yourself with robot body parts, are you still human?
Are you still human? You know, like, it's very deep shit, the cyberpunk genre, and this game isn't really that.
Yeah.
Like, it presents the ideas, but it doesn't really dive into it. So, I mean, look, if you're looking for your first, I guess, step into the cyberpunk genre, I actually think this game's good, because it does present the ideas, especially in side quests. That's where, like, a lot of these ideas are presented rather than the main campaign. But it does present you with all the themes and ideas that you would expect in a cyberpunk genre. So it's good as, like, baby's first cyberpunk. You know what I mean? Like, it's
directly from my mind.
It's good for that. So, like, if you've never watched Ghost in the Shell or, like, The Matrix, or, you know, played any, like, cyberpunk games, like, genre, or just experienced the cyberpunk genre, this is a good first step to kind of get you into it. And by the way, that's not saying the story's bad. Like, I think the story's really good. I think this game has a solid main campaign quest line. It's not as deep as I want from this genre, personally. So that's all I have to say, spoiler free. Let's talk about gameplay just a bit, because we did briefly talk about, like, you kind of put your thoughts on the kind of, I guess, you know, opening 10 hours or so.
Well, yeah, but my gameplay thoughts, I believe, unless this game turns into a third-person fucking beat-em-up, my thoughts on the gameplay stand for the whole game, right?
Well, here's the thing, okay, like, I'm going to break down the gameplay of this a little bit. And so basically, let's start with the open world. Now, we talked about how pretty the open world is, and we talked about how very little there is to do in it. And that is very much the case. Like, there is a lot of spaces. Like first off, this game is incredible to look at, especially at nighttime. Like, this game is honestly one of the best looking games I've seen. When you ignore the fact when you drive around, there's all sorts of texture pop-ins happening and all sorts of shit going on when you're driving, especially. But, like, when you actually, like, I can tell you right now, I've got so many clips, and I did actually include a couple of clips in my video, but, like, when you actually just get out of your car or stop walking and you just actually take the time just to walk through the city, you know, you don't notice any pop-ins or NPCs popping in because you're going slowly. It's kind of a weird thing. Like, the faster you go in this game, the more the game struggles to keep up with you. But like in terms of rendering, like this game looks incredible when you just get out and walk around. And there were so many times, especially in that first 20 hours or so, where I would literally just take like 10 minutes and I would do nothing else, but I would just walk around the city, like a specific part of the city for like 10 minutes or whatever, and just take it in. Because this, as my boy Keanu Reeves says, this game truly is breathtaking to look at. Like when you do take 5 minutes just to walk around a particular area and just take it in. This game is incredible in that sense, right?
Yep.
Like, but what really surprises me about this game is the verticality of it. Like this city is pretty dense, but not in the sense of the size of it. It's very dense in the sense of how much shit is going on above your head in this game, right? And I think that's how any cyberpunk world should be. You know, you look at Blade Runner and you look at, you know, all these cyberpunk genre worlds, and it's all vertical. You know, it's never like a sense of scale, you know, spread out horizontally. It's everything's shooting up into the sky. And when you just walk around this game, especially in the middle of the city, and you look up, it's insane. It's insane when you look up in this game. Just how small you are in this city. Like, how tiny you really are. And, like, so in terms of that, like, CD Projekt Red have absolutely nailed the design of the city. In that sense, right? And then you go out to the Badlands. And the Badlands are great. I love the Badlands so much. Like, because it's such a stark contrast to the city. You see the city in the distance, and you just got this open desert with, like, you know, I don't know, you got like this little like town area, you know, you've got all sorts of shit going on, and you got the nomad areas, and it's just really cool, the entire world. And I love also the city's broken into little parts. Like, you've got the really posh areas of the city, but then even in the really posh areas, when you actually take the time to explore it and notice, you know, there's a lot of like what the cyberpunk genre does really well is there's a lot of inequality.
Yeah.
All right, there's a lot of homelessness, and you see just how fucking disgusting this place is when you know, when you take a few moments to step back from just how great and, you know, how good it looks. But then you might walk past like this little alley, like this little like kind of area that's just kind of tucked away just out of sight, and you just see like trash, and you see, you know, just how disgusting this is. And that is a very cyberpunk world. You know, like you get that same sense with Blade Runner. Like when you watch Blade Runner, like how fucking disgusting is that world? Do you know what would have made this game better though?
What?
If it wasn't so fucking clear and sunny all the time.
A bit
like,
of fog would go a long way.
No, not just fog. This world should be fucking polluted.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, Blade Runner has, like, that pollution smoke all throughout the fucking city, and, like, you just see the neon signs blurring through it.
Yeah.
That's
like,
quintessential cyberpunk to me.
And there's actually a great... Like, there's mods that you can download which actually add this to the game, and it's incredible how different the game looks once you add this on. But you know what, it is what it is in that regard. In terms of the open world itself, there's not much to do in it. It's very much a case of you've got these missions to do, it's very much a case of the content, the quest content is all you really can do. There is a few open world side stuff, like you've got to collect the Delamain cars, which I will say, that is part of what I say when I say busy work. I just mean like random shit that's designed to extend gameplay, and these quest lines is very much a part of that. But in true CD Projekt Red fashion, the story behind, like, you're not just doing it for no reason. Like, the whole idea behind it is really cool. I still haven't finished those missions because, quite frankly, it's just busy work and I'm not doing it. But like the few that I have played, like it's really cool concept what they're doing with those, so I really like that. But in terms of the interactability with the world, like there's just not much to do. There's not much to interact with. There's a lot of areas in this world where you feel like they should be accessible, but they're not.
Yeah.
there's nothing to do in the world. Like, you can't go sit down and grab a bite to eat. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, not that I'm expecting that, but like there's no
That's
way
my
to
issue.
interact with the world itself.
You've just pinpointed like pretty much my main issue with the world, and it's why I keep bringing up Watch Dogs, because it has the exact same issue. There's just I've been conditioned by fucking Rockstar. Because,
yeah, it's definitely not a Rockstar open world, is it?
Yeah, it's people. A lot of people take Grand Theft Auto for granted, and yeah, some of the things Rockstar does are shitty, but they know how to make an open world at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
And that took years of perfection, which is why you should never try to do it on your first
a lot of
go.
people and here's the thing: a lot of people tried to make this argument with this game, and I just don't understand. The people I mean, look, I understand people that like this game, like, and if you like or dislike this game, like, I fucking love this game, right? And you're on the other end of the spectrum where you're like, yeah, it's all right,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I get that, but what I will never understand is the people that are going to great lengths to defend CD Projekt Red here. And like the arguments you're saying is, well, people will make comparisons to GTA, and the arguments you're saying is, well, this game's not like GTA. You can't make that comparison. It's not fair. I'm like, what are you talking about? This game is a bit of GTA. Like, it's very much, if it's like CD Projekt Red is like, okay, we want to do an RPG, but we also want to have this big GTA style open world to play around with, because this is a very different open world to what you get in The Witcher 3, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're very different open world experiences, and this does feel more like GTA, and that's not because of the driving, it's because the open world feels like it, when you look at it, it looks like it's been designed to be GTA. Like,
Yeah.
it's designed to be like this
There's
world that you
NPCs all over
inhabit.
the place. There's food stands. There's
It's
things that you
designed-
should be able to interact with.
And I feel like they were very much aiming for a Rockstar style open world and just missed the mark completely.
Yeah.
And again, that just comes from the fact that this game is unfinished. Like, who knows? Like, maybe the intention was, because we do know for a fact that some of the cut content from this game was the fact that you could purchase apartments. You could have different places to live. And by the way, by the time you reach the end of the game, there is several spots where you can go that act as your apartment. For example, if you romance Judy's apartment becomes available to you.
Yeah.
So you can go there and you can do all your things and
Yeah, all
whatnot.
your safe houses. And
Yeah. But like some of the cut content from this game was the fact that you could purchase different properties. You could, again, vehicle customization. That's content that isn't in the game, but it is content that they did talk about as being in the game.
Yeah.
So that'll probably be in the game eventually. But there's just not a lot to do in the open world yet, which is why the open world looks very good, but it feels very dead. So there's that. In terms of gunplay, I will say, like, and I'm going to put gunplay and character builds into the same thing here. There is a lot of different ways to play this game. And the replayability of this game alone, because of this, like you may not think it's that in-depth, but trust me, it is. It's very in-depth, this game, in terms of the gameplay. Like, there are so many different character builds you could go for that you could do 2 playthroughs of this game that are completely different. Okay, like they're just completely different to play. Like, it feels like you're playing a different game, because you can go, like, because, like, how in the inventory screen you have all these different skill trees, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like much when you look at it, but like, if you like, and I kind of, the way I played the game the first time, I didn't get a lot out of this because I didn't realize this till later on, but the way I played the game the first time was I was kind of like maxing out different skills like equally. But like, when you have a character build, like, you can just focus on one particular build.
Yeah.
So you could focus on being a net runner stealthy hacker, all right? And you can literally play through this entire game and not use guns, and just focus on hacking and focus on stealth.
That and
let me
melee
tell
is
you-
pretty much what I'm doing already.
Yeah. Now, let me tell you, the melee in this game is garbage. It's fucking terrible. Like, it's absolutely horrendous. It's fine when you have a sword, because I really enjoy the satisfaction of chopping up people with a sword. I don't know, it's just really satisfying. But it uses the same mechanics as the melee, and it's shit. It's garbage. There's times in this game where they literally will force you into a melee encounter, and it's just fucking terrible. It's terrible every time, and that entire melee system needs a complete overhaul. But I will be fair, melee is very hard to get right in a first-person game.
Yeah.
Like most first-person games don't have melee as a combat system. Like, they have the option, but it's a very basic, like, light attack, heavy attack, that kind of thing. Where this game has more going on.
You can't quite implement combos into a first-person game, or at least it's not easy to.
So that's garbage. But I will say this game is very much like Destiny when it comes to its gunplay. And not so much where you're up to in the game, Lewin. Like, I will admit, like, the first 10 hours or so, because also remember with character builds, the first 10 hours, by the time you finish Act 1, you've barely touched the character building options. You've barely touched upgrading options, right? So this is why I say, like, Act 1 is so separate from the rest of the game, because it's not until that title screen appears and when Johnny starts to appear that you actually get access to the game's full systems, and you can actually progress towards your character build. It's very much like that first act is very linear in its kind of like progression and its kind of, you know, the story and everything. It's a very linear experience, where by the time you reach Act 2, that's when it opens up to you, and you can actually go, all right, this is how I want to play this game, and this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can have a full net run, and let me tell you right now, I haven't done this myself, but I'm going to do it for my next playthrough, is focus on hacking. Because my first playthrough, I didn't do that. I focused on guns and weapons, and had a bit of hacking in the background. I just focused on being like a real badass fucking John Wick. But like, hacking is broken. Like, let me tell you right now, once you max out hacking, it's you literally do not even need to ever enter combat. Like,
I already
you can just
know
hack your way
that
through
feeling.
the entire game.
I've cleared multiple outposts with just the just the shock option alone.
Yeah, and like, not just that, like, some of the hacking abilities you get, because there are rare hacking options and stuff. Like, once you upgrade your cyber deck, once you have that RAM, like, once you fully upgrade your skill tree in hacking, your RAM recharges so quickly. Like, you don't have to wait, really. Like, you can put out an attack, and by the time you're ready to do the next one, your RAM's pretty much at a point where it's ready to go. But some of the abilities you get are so just insane, and especially towards the end game when you get like these really rare quick hacks. I've seen gameplay of this, and man, I'm really excited to try it myself, because it just looks incredibly fun. But that's like a kind of build you would go to be a hacker, but then you would have like weapons and stealth if you really needed them. But like, trust me, you're not going to need them. You might need the sword if they get too close to you, but beyond that, you'll be fine. But there's so many different options. Now, the way I played this game was I tried to be stealthy at first, but I pretty much found the easiest approach to deal with anything was just to shoot your way through it, to be honest. So that's what I focused on. I will say, when it comes to the inventory, though, once I found there was 3 weapons that I had. There was a sniper rifle, which you get, called Overwatch, which you get from Panam's quest line. There was this one smart pistol that I had, and just an assault rifle. Once I had those 3, I literally never used another weapon in the game. Literally never touched them, because I was like, I don't need anything else. These do the job for me, you know. So it was very much a case of like, the game is very much what you make of it. I think that's a fair way to describe it. Like, this game is as hard and as challenging as you want it to be. If you want it to be easy, you can just shoot shit. It's fine, you know. But I will say, when it comes to the gunplay, it's not as solid as Destiny, but in terms of how each gun feels like a lot of guns have very different feelings to each other. Like it feels different to play. So it's very similar to Destiny in that regard. I think Destiny is a very fair comparison when it comes to gunplay in this. It's not as fluent and solid as Destiny is. Like Destiny is probably one of the best shooters out there. Like let's be real here. Like let's be real. Destiny is probably the best when it comes to gunplay. But this game gets a lot right in that regard, but it's not quite that level. Driving's horrendous, so let's just move on. Driving is garbage in this game, and the biggest problem with driving, I'll tell you what the biggest problem with driving is, it's the mini-map. That's the biggest problem. It's so far zoomed in, you just can't see where you're going.
I just have a problem with how the vehicles don't feel like vehicles.
Oh, like ignoring just the fact that driving is shit in general, like the biggest problem is the minimap. Like I feel like if you could at least see where you're going, the driving would be easier to control. Like it's still going to be garbage, but like you would at least have a sense of, all right, I know that I'm going to turn here, rather than the very last second you're like, oh shit, I have to turn, because that's how the minimap is in this game. It's so zoomed in that you don't find out you need to turn until you're literally at the corner, and then you have to try and, like, there's so many times I played this game where I would just miss turns and, you know, miss where I'm going because I just don't know about it until last second. So hopefully that gets patched. I really feel like the minimap needs to be zoomed out a bit more. And I think, you know, we keep bringing up Rockstar, but I think look at GTA 5 and how that minimap works, and I think that's perfect. So if CD Projekt Red could do that, that'd be great. Thanks. The only thing I want to say, other thing I want to say is really the crafting system. It's fucking pointless. Honestly, I don't know if you've used much of the crafting system. I've not used it at all. But let me tell you, in my 90 hours of playing this game, across messing around with mods and playing through the campaign and replaying the final missions and doing that kind of stuff, I've only ever used the crafting system to craft ammo, but if I really need it before going into an encounter, because you can't use the crafting system when you're in combat, but I've only ever used it for that. I have literally had zero reason to ever touch it. So I think the crafting system is something that's been implemented in this game that is just heavily unutilized. Like, it's non-existent. Like, you could literally get through the game without ever touching that menu screen. So it's a bit disappointing. The other thing I want to talk about is character creation.
Yeah.
So I like that it's there. I like being able to make my own V.
Congrats, you've summed it up entirely in one sentence. It's there.
I mean, there are actually third-person cutscenes in this game, so you do actually see your character, but it's not until the end of the game. Like, literally the last cutscene of every ending is a third-person cutscene. But it just feels like there should be cutscenes in this game. And on one hand, I like how immersive the game is when you do play it in first person the entire game. But also it just feels like there should be cutscenes.
Yeah, fair enough. I drive in third person and use a bike.
Well, here's the thing. Like, when you do see your character when you're in third person and you see it in photo mode, but do you want to know what's the most pointless part of the character creator, Lewin? Let me tell you what's the most pointy part. It's the ability to choose your genitals.
Yeah, because
pointless part.
I don't know if this is different in the American version or something, but it just censors you out of the menu anyway.
Yeah, so in the menu you see it. Outside of the menu, you're always wearing underwear. Now, I thought this was a glitch at first. Now, look, listen. If I'm gonna, you know, we all should go to horny jail, but you know, I want to see if I have the option to have my character naked in a game. I just want to see it. If you're going to give me the option to have genitals, I just want to see it at one point and be like, oh yeah, you know, that's neat. You know, it's a very like little thing where it's like, you know, it's just this extra little thing that you don't have to add into the game whatsoever, but you know, it's just this extra little bit of realism that's like, hey, that's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. It's pointless, but it's neat. The problem is it's not a glitch. The game is censored. It's on all versions. Like, you permanently wear underwear in this game. So no matter if you're naked in the menu or no matter, I mean, obviously, there's mods to fix this on PC, by the way. But here's the thing about that. Having a penis in this game is completely pointless, because guess what? Because it's censored, there is no rendering option for a penis in this game. So if you select a penis, like, let's say you're playing as a male character, Lewin.
No.
Or are you playing as female? Okay, well, let's just say you're playing as a male character or a female character with a penis, right?
Yup.
Guess what? You're never going to see it. Regardless of if you have a mod on to remove the underwear, guess what? There's nothing there to render the penis. It's just skin. It's just nothing.
I'm so glad that there was a point to that.
So I'm like, this is why I'm bringing it up. Like, what's the fucking point? Why are we customizing genitals if we're never going to see them? What's the actual point of this? It's weird. Not the fact that they censor it. And, like, everyone thought this was a glitch, because you know how they do have the option to censor the game?
Yeah.
Everyone thought it was a glitch. But, so people were actually asking CD Projekt Red, like, why can I be naked in the menu, but in the game I'm always wearing underwear? And they did confirm that that's by design. It's not a glitch. That's how it's meant to be. So, there you go. That's a little fun fact. It's fucking pointless. I do enjoy the character customization, though. It's not as deep as I would have liked. In fact, even going back to that E3 demo that was shown, the options that they shown in the menu was far deeper than what we get in the game. So I am a little disappointed in some aspects of the character customization. I even remember saying when I first played it, because I spent, by the way, Lewin, I spend at least 40 minutes to an hour creating my character in every single game. And yeah, I remember saying to my brother at the end of, after literally an hour of recorded footage of me customizing my character, I remember saying to my brother, I was like, you know what, this has been a bit disappointing. I will have to be honest here. So, there you go. But another thing I just want to bring up is how fucking pointless clothing options are in this game.
Yeah.
It's so pointless, because they all tie to your stats, right?
Yes.
So it literally doesn't matter what your character looks like, because you're always going to customize the look of your character based on what gives you the highest armor stats.
Yeah.
That's just how it's going to be. So your character ends up looking like just looking like they've literally just went shopping in the dumpster. Like, that's what they look like all the time. Now, here's the thing. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to play the game and look how I want to look. I don't care about the stats. And you know what? I was still fine. I was still pretty fine. But I just think it's stupid that, like, and it's a criticism I have of Destiny as well. Like, I just think it's stupid that having the option to wear different armor and customize your character in that way, having that tied to stats is fucking stupid. I hated it in The Witcher 3. I thought The Witcher 3 inventory, like, that whole system in The Witcher 3 was fucking terrible, and it's terrible here as well. Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah.
But in terms of the gameplay, that's all I really have to say. Like, I think there's a lot of potential in this game. There's a lot of replay value in actually playing this game again and actually going out of your way to play it differently. So I think that they've done a really good job in terms of those aspects, but, obviously in terms of, like, the polish and, just the kind of the open world, it leaves a lot to be desired, I think. So I really do hope that there are some updates to this game with the DLC that do, maybe add more things to do in the open world, add a bit more interactivity. But I think at this point, I think it might be also fair to say that that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think it's just is what it is. I reckon they'll probably work on the AI, I reckon. But I think in terms of what to do in the open world, I don't think we're ever going to see, like, a GTA-style open world in this game. But let's move on to story spoilers. How do you feel about that? Should we do that now?
Sure.
I think now's a good time. I think we've covered everything. So I'm just gonna spoil the shit out of some stuff. I'm not gonna spoil the shit out of everything. But there's some things I want to talk about. And first off, life paths. Let's talk about life paths, Lewin.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, so basically the way the life paths work is you have it's essentially picking a backstory for your character, and you essentially have, like, a little prologue bit that's different for each life path. There's only 3 options. There's Corpo, Nomad, and Street Kid. So you chose Street Kid, I believe that's what you said.
Yes, I did.
Yep. So I chose the Nomad path. So I just want you to tell me a little bit about the Street Kid. Like, how was that opening for you?
You do something at the beginning of the game, then you get in a car, and then one of your old, like, the guy who I guess you ran for or worked for back in the day, picks you up and is like, hey, here's what's going on, and then you go to the bar and talk to people, and then it's done.
Right. And then you have that, like... So basically, the way the prologues work is they all end with the same montage of V and Jackie kind of living it up in Night City and moving up the ranks. Like, every single one of these ends with that montage, and then Act 1 starts.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I'm glad I didn't pick that, because that just sounds fucking terrible.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember it at all. It's such an inconsequential part of...
Yeah, and this is the thing, and I'll talk about my life path option in a sec, but this is the thing about the life path options in general, is it's fucking meaningless. It doesn't impact the game in any way.
But it gives me more dialogue options.
And by the way, some of those dialogue options are fucking great, by the way, but as a nomad. But the point is it means nothing, okay? It's irrelevant. You get like a little 40-minute opening bit, and then that's about it. And by the way, the life path options are slightly different lengths, each one, but it is around 40 minutes to an hour, all right, each one, right? And then you have that little montage, and you're just straight into the same storyline. I'll tell you about mine. So I did the Nomad one, right? So I started outside the city, and we had to go into the city. Now, what I would have loved to have seen... I'll tell you what I would have loved to have seen from this, and then I'll tell you what actually happens. So, what I would have loved to have seen is you're part of this nomad family, and, you know, you want to, you know, maybe branch... Because the nomads are all about living free, you know? They're not about that city life, right?
Yeah.
I would have loved to see, you know, that, and maybe you have some disagreements, or you know, something that leads to you getting kicked out of the family, like banished or whatever. So then your only option is you're forced to go into the city. So I would have liked, you know, because that's where your opportunities now lie, right? Because there's no place for you out here anymore. So I would have loved having, like, you know, a set of a few quests that, you know, you have to build towards getting into the city, right? So, you know, you have to, like, you know, maybe you accept a job, and then, you know, you got to do something for this person, and that person's like, okay, I need you to do this. We need to smuggle this into the city, or whatever. You know, I wish there was a few missions that built to it. And instead, what happens? And by the way, I do think the Nomad, just based on what you described for Street Kid, I think the Nomad is probably objectively a better one. But basically, you start out, you're in this town, and you're basically given this job where you need to smuggle a package into the city, right? So you take your car out, and that's where you meet Jackie. And I do like how each of the life path options introduce you to Jackie in different ways.
Yeah, Jackie comes to beat the shit out of you in the Street Kid one.
Where in this one, you go to meet him, and he's basically your partner in this smuggling mission, right? So you meet him out in the Badlands, and you know, you got to take this thing. So then you have this mission where you got to get through the border area first. So you actually have to get out of the car. You've got to go in, and you're actually interviewed, and you've got to answer questions about your purposes and why you're going in there. And then there's this whole big chase sequence once you get to the other side of the border on your way into the city, where Arasaka is after you, and the package you have, and you have to kind of try and escape them, and then you find a little safe house, and basically you have this really cool character moment between Jack and V, and it's revealed the package you're actually smuggling into the city is actually a gecko, which just sounds weird when you say it out loud. But it's actually really cool because, like, they're apparently meant to be extinct. So this is like this frozen gecko that, like, kind of unfreezes as you're talking and jumps out and whatever. But, like, it's like this thing you're smuggling into the city. So, and then you have that opening montage that's just like whatever. But like it's a cool little setup. Like I think like just from describing it now, I think you could probably agree there's more going on than what you had.
Yeah.
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 Now I haven't played the Corpo one, but I do know you start out working for Arasaka, and then basically they essentially fire you, but they're gonna take you out, and then Jackie comes in to kind of like he's kind of a character you befriend during your time in the late stages before you leave Arasaka, and then he comes in to save you because like Arasaka send goons to kill you because they're firing you. And then he saves your life, and then, you know, but basically, like, the entire Corpo route is V is this big, you know, big, like, character working for Arasaka. You know, V has a lot of money. V's, like, you know, this very Corpo path, right? And then the whole idea is literally Arasaka fire her, and she loses everything. Like, everything. Like, she loses everything. Her entire life is flipped upside down. And then so she's forced into living this street life with Jackie and trying to work her way up the ranks and stuff. It's a pretty cool idea. I like that idea, right? So it sounds like both of those options have more going on than what Street Kid has.
Yeah, Street Kid's like, yo, you talk to your boss who's like, hey, you're finally back in town. And then he's like, yeah, go talk to this guy at this bar. Go talk to the guy at the bar. He tells you about this exclusive car that you need to go nick off some corpo. So you head out to do that. And as you're going to steal the car...
Is that when Jackie turns up? Because I've seen that clip. Yeah,
that's when Jackie turns up. He's also looking to steal the car. So you two fucking tussle. And then... He's like,
you have a bit of a beef.
You have a bit of a beef, and then you both end up getting betrayed or shot at by this corpo, and then you both make it out alive, and then Jack is like, you know what?
Let's be friends.
Let's be friends, and then voila, you did it. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, do you know what it sounds like, Lewin? It just sounds like you picked the wrong option. Which is fine. You know? It's fine. But, like, I definitely think just from how you describe it, I think out of all of them, I think the Nomad is by far probably the best one to pick. But, you know how I said earlier how this game is very much a case of it is what you make it?
Yeah.
Well, when it came to the storylines, let me tell you one thing. Life path options don't affect the story in any way.
So I've heard.
Okay. But neither do any of the decisions you make throughout the story. It's very much a case of you get to the final mission of the game, and there's a couple of choices you have to make in that final mission, and that impacts what ending you get. Rest of the game's irrelevant in terms of that. Now, obviously, your decisions you make will affect your relationships with characters. But it doesn't affect your relationships with characters enough that it affects their quest lines. It really only affects your romance options. That's about it. There are a couple of moments in the game where you have to make a choice to save someone or whatever, and then they might turn up in the final mission if you choose the right option for the final mission. But essentially, like, it really doesn't matter what dialogue choices you pick. It really doesn't matter what options you pick in the entire game. There's, like I said, there's a few little characters, like, you know that bit before you do the heist where you go to that, like, gang area?
Yeah.
There's the character Dudu or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He becomes an important character later on in the game if you choose the right option there and then. So there's little things like that, but it doesn't impact the ending.
Okay.
At all. Nothing impacts anything. And that was a big disappointment because, especially coming out of The Witcher 3, where, like, there's so many little decisions you make in that game that actually have an impact on the world and have an impact on your endings. Because you know how at the end of you get, like, all these different endings for all the characters? You know, there's so much little decisions throughout that game that impact, where this game, there's just nothing. It's like playing Life is Strange. You know, like, Life is Strange has literally zero decision-making that impacts anything until you get to the very end of the game where you make that last choice, and then that's what impacts your game. It's the same here. There are a few options, because you basically pick what version of the final mission you want to do. So there's 3 different versions of the final mission, and the final mission is, by the way, you raid Arasaka Tower, which is what Johnny did back in 2013 or whenever it was, and you're doing it again. There's 3 different versions. You can either raid Arasaka Tower with Panam and the Aldecados, who are like the nomad group. If you follow Panam's storyline, you actually kind of get... if you are a nomad, I don't know, I think you can do it if you're not chose the nomad life path, but, you get to actually become a member of that nomad group. And then you guys raid Arasaka Tower and whatever.
Yeah.
And the whole point of raiding Arasaka Tower is to get to this technology that can separate V and Johnny. So that's the whole point. That's why you do it. It's also just to, say big fuck you to the corporations and that kind of thing as well. So there's like more going on. But the basis of the final mission is you need to save V.
Yeah.
And so there's that decision. You decide which version of that mission you want to play. I've played all 3. And let me tell you, the Pan Am one's really good. I actually really like that version of the final mission. It's a bit longer than the others, and there's a lot more going on. Then there's the Johnny version of the final mission. So this is where you let Johnny take control, and you raid Arasaka Tower with Rogue instead. And like that's actually really cool because you actually just play. Like I really love any moment in the game where you're playing as Johnny, but it's through V rather than a memory of Johnny, because you hear V's dialogue. Like you hear the actress playing V, who's really good in this game, by the way. But you hear her saying Johnny's lines of dialogue, but she delivers it just like Johnny. Like there's like this weird, like kind of like you can tell it's not V, it's a different character.
Yeah.
But then they have Keanu Reeves' voice under it as well, so it's like toned down a bit, and it's kind of muffled slightly, but you can hear, so that it's Johnny talking and not V. But it's really good. But basically that mission is just an hour of playing as Johnny essentially. But that's really good. And then the final one is you side with Arasaka, and Arasaka basically are like, we need to take down, one of the members of the Arasaka family is like, we need to stop my brother, who's like the villain, not really the villain of the game, but he's like, the head of Arasaka or whatever. He's the one that kills the father in that mission. So it's about taking him down. And so you team up with his sister, who can promise you that she can free Johnny and you and whatever if you do this. And Johnny is very against this whole idea, by the way. Like when you choose that, it basically ruins your relationship with Johnny, no matter what options you pick throughout the game. Like Johnny basically fucking despises you because you chose to side with Arasaka, the big corporation. But anyway, like you do that, and that mission's fucking garbage. I played it last night, and I was literally playing, like, the other 2 are great. They're so good. And then I played that one last night, and I was like, fuck, I don't care about this. This is just shit. This is so bad. But then basically you get to a point where then you get 2 options, okay? And then basically in the other 2 campaigns, there's the AI splits you and Johnny, but then only one of you can return to the body. And if it's V, then the chip has rewritten a lot of V's body's DNA, which means the body, like V's still gonna die. So like that's one option, and both of those endings have that option. And then the other option is you let Johnny take control of the body, and V goes off to live in cyberspace or whatever. So then that's when you get your epilogues, and each one of these decisions there's a different ending. So you have a Johnny epilogue where Johnny's in full control of V's body, and V is pretty much technically dead. You have an ending where V goes off with the Nomads, which is the ending I got, which just makes sense to me. And this is what I was saying when I say you pick what you make of it. Like, I had to kind of like come up with a story path in my head to be like, okay, this is what makes sense to me. If I pick the Nomad option, then V should really, like, at the end, should go off and live with the Nomads, right? Yeah. And she's only got 6 months of life left, and then she dies, and that's how the story ends. But, like, I feel like, you know, if that's the life path you choose, that's the ending that makes the most sense. And plus, if you romance Judy, or whoever you romance actually goes off with you, and you leave the city and you go off to explore new areas, and like it's such a great ending. But then there's the Johnny ending, which is really good as well. Like, it's one of my favorite endings. What's the other one? There's one where you become literally like what you set out to do. You and Jackie become like legends in Night City. You actually become a legend in Night City. And then it ends with you like raiding some orbital casino or something as like one last big heist or some shit. It's really good. It's a bit depressing though, because it does unfortunately end your relationship with Judy if you pick Judy as a romance option. But you know, and there's a very like depressing underlying tone to that ending, but like it just ends in like the most epic way. It's great. And then the two Arasaka endings are fucking dog shit. Like, I don't know how else to put it. They're just garbage. You basically go to Arasaka Orbital Space Station, and they perform surgery on you to remove Johnny's biochip, which essentially kills Johnny. Because, by the way, in all the other endings, if you choose to take over the body from Johnny, Johnny doesn't die. Johnny just goes off to live another kind of like life in cyberspace that no one fully understands what that's like, but you say goodbye to him in cyberspace, and then that's it for him in terms of his involvement. But he's still alive in some form, where with this ending, like, Johnny's dead. Like, they literally destroy the biochip and kill him. But then the only two options you get from here is you either consent to Arasaka putting your consciousness into a construct just like Johnny, so then they can at a later stage get you another body, or you tell Arasaka to fuck off and you go back down to Earth to live your last 6 months before you die. So it doesn't matter which ending you choose, pretty much V dies in the end of pretty much every ending. But there you go, that's all the endings of the game.
Neat.
The Arasaka ones are fucking terrible. They're so bad. But the others are actually really good. But yeah, it's good. Like, I definitely recommend playing through to get them. There's obviously specific requirements for certain endings, but it's very much a case of you make one decision and that's how you play the final mission, and then you make another choice and that's how you get your ending. Anything else in between doesn't really affect it. There is one other ending of the game that you can only get if you have a good relationship with Johnny. So in other words, you're not a fucking dick to Johnny all the time. And that ending is essentially you kill yourself. That's pretty much it. So then you don't play the final mission of the game. The game literally just ends. So there's that ending as well. But you can only get that ending if you have a good relationship with Johnny. If you're a fucking dick and you have a bad relationship, you can't get that ending. But all of these endings have third-person cutscenes. Every single one. And they're all really good. Like, the cutscenes. Like, I really love all the cutscenes. I'm like, why isn't there more cutscenes in this game? If you can do it for the end of the game, why can't you do it for the rest of the game? But that's my thoughts on the endings. I don't know. What do you think? What ending are you hoping for?
Probably the go off and live for 6 months before dying one.
Well, that's like... Which one, though? The Nomad one?
Yeah, probably the Nomad one.
Yeah. Well, that's all. All you have to do... to do that is literally you have to choose to raid Arasaka with Pan Am and the Nomads, and then at the end you just choose to take back your body and you'll get that ending. Okay. So this is what I mean. Like, nothing you do in the game has any effect on this. It's just those two decisions. What version of the final mission you play and what choice you make at the very end of the game as to whether Johnny lives, who controls V's body. That's it. They're the only two choices that matter to your ending. So that's a bit of a disappointment. But you know what? Do you know what they say, Lewin? You know, they do say that it's not necessarily about the destination. It's about the journey. And I will say, I'm not going to go in depth on Cyberpunk's story here, by the way. But I really did enjoy this story. This story is really good. It's got a lot of great moments. But like I said earlier, the side quests, man. The side quests is where it's at. There's this whole side quest with Johnny that is fucking incredible. You basically get his old band back together and you perform a show, and I'm not gonna lie, like, that scene where you actually perform a samurai show, and like the it's funny how they explain it, but the way they explain it is because Johnny's friend, like the lead singer in the band, like knows that Johnny's inside V. But he's like, oh, we're just not going to tell the rest of the band because that'll be a bit too much for them. So what they tell the rest of the band is V's just a fill-in for Johnny, when it's in reality Johnny actually, you know, playing and performing. And it's really great. Like, there's this whole bit where you're like playing the guitar and stuff, and then V starts singing. It's really good. It's a really cool mission. It's like missions like that just really fucking stand out. Like, there's so much of that in the game. You know, there's this whole interesting side quest line, and it starts out kind of boring where you're like, okay, whatever, and then it just gets really super interesting. And it's basically this whole storyline about how these corporations are wiping the memories of this politician and implanting new ones into his brain so he can win an election that benefits these corporations. Like, it's this whole fucking can of worms. Yeah. And it's such a good mission. Like, Chris, when you get to that quest line, it's so good. And there's never really a clear definitive answer to that either. Like, it kind of ends on a note where it's like, fuck, what's going to actually happen to this guy? Because this guy, like, literally has no idea. Like, he has no idea, and, like, there's, like, secret rooms in his house where he's being surveilled by people. You know, they're wiping his memories and replacing them with new ones, and then you gotta, like, uncover what's going on, and there's this whole corporation, and, like, it builds up as you're, like, trying to figure this mystery out, and then you're going to tell this guy everything. You're gonna go tell him the truth that, you know, like, who he is right now isn't who he is, and he's been conditioned to be a certain way to benefit these corporations. And you go there, and then all of a sudden your mind gets under attack, and you just hear this voice that's basically like, stop digging into this. And it's like such a really terrifying moment, because they literally just hack into V's brain, and it just like literally like cause all her motor function. Like, she just collapses on the ground, and there's just all this shit coming up on the screen, and you just hear this voice, like this like disguised voice that's just like stop looking into this. Like we're warning you, don't look into this, and do not tell him. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, this is what I mean by, like, all the deep cyberpunk shit is in the side quests. And
Yeah.
it's so good. And then you have to decide whether you tell this guy the truth or whether you just let him leave. And then anyway, the quest line ends, and then you never encounter these people again in the rest of the game. But it's just such a good quest line. Like, holy shit, it's so good. You know, it's like you're basically playing detective. There's another quest line where there's like another quest line where there's like these murders, and you have to kind of like play detective and solve the case. What else is there? There's obviously the character quest lines are incredible. Like, every single one of the main character quest lines are insane. Like, they're so good. But like Judy's one is about essentially saving, because you know how Judy works at that club, right?
Yeah.
As like the BD. Because basically Judy's job in this game is she basically makes porn. That's essentially what she does. She edits porn BDs essentially, but her job is like, her entire quest line revolves around freeing these slave girls from this essentially sex club that's run by like absolute pieces of shit. And like, that's what that entire questline revolves around. It revolves around like saving these people. And that questline is like, I mean, I'm like, look, I'm saying it because of Judy, but like, that quest line is pretty fucking intense. Like, it's very intense in a few parts, I will be honest. But yeah, it's like, man, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to like go into it, because there's a lot of these like little kinds of side missions, and some of them are very short too, by the way. Like, some of them you might get this like little cool little side quest that's like one quest, and you just stumble across it in the world. Like, you just happen to stumble across it, where other ones are like big multi-quest storylines. Yeah, there's some good shit, man. Just play the side quests. That's all I have to say.
I plan to.
And that Delamain quest, actually, you know the one I said earlier, that's the busy work, where you have to go and grab all these Delamain, the taxi cars.
Yeah.
You have to go get them. So all of these cars have gone rogue, but every single one of them has, like, their own little personality. And basically what's happened is, I believe what's happened is, something happened with the Delamain AI, which has split off his personality, and then that has infected, like, a few different cars. So, like, there's one car that's, like, very aggressive and, like, you know, is like, I'm not fucking going back, you know, that kind of thing. But then there's this other car that's, like, become very aware of his existence, and he's, like, super fucking anxious and depressed and that. So when you find that car, he's like, I'll go back, but please don't drive fast. The city scares me. There's too much people going on. There's too much cars driving around, and he's, like, really scared. There's this other one that's literally just Gladys from Portal. So that's pretty cool. Like, there's a few, like, different ones, and, like, this is what I was saying earlier when, like, it's just busy work to extend the gameplay, but there's just this storyline to it that's actually really cool and unique. So I will give CD Projekt Red props for that. In some of those aspects, they actually have gone out of their way to at least make it engaging and interesting.
Yeah.
But it's essentially, the way this game works is it's essentially Act 1, and then Act 2 and 3 is, like, a completely separate thing. And yeah, I don't know, like, I mean, I don't really know what else to say. Like, I don't really want to go in depth on the main story or anything. I think all I really want to say left is just this game has very memorable characters. And I think you'd probably agree with me on that. Just based on what you've played so far, because, like, you would have been introduced to... Who would have been? You would have been introduced to Judy by now.
I've met Judy.
Obviously Jackie.
Yeah.
Like, Jackie's a great character. Like, I really love Jackie. Like, it's genuinely actually sad when he dies.
Yeah.
If the gun's not clipping through his head. But, like, it's genuinely sad when he dies, and I really love, what's her name? The voice actress for Female V.
I think it's like Courtney something.
Hold on, I'm just gonna look her up now. Female V voice actor, because, like, that scene, Sheremiah Lee is her name.
Yep. No, I know it from Persona. Okay, yep.
Yeah, and she just does such a good job at playing V. Yeah, like, it genuinely is what it is. But, like, she's just acting her heart out in that scene, and, like, she does a really great job throughout the entire game. It's like I said, I've got a lot of negative to say about this game, but I equally have a lot of positive. Like, I genuinely do believe this is one of the best games to release last year, easily. Like, I honestly, like, genuinely, and I hate to keep ratting on The Last of Us, but I genuinely think this is a better game than The Last of Us, not in terms of polish, but in terms of the content. Like, it's more shit that I like, where, you know, like I said, I was just bored with The Last of Us. So it's not a bad game, I was just bored with it. Where this, it's a bad game, but I wasn't bored with it. Does that make sense?
It does.
Like, I'm talking fucking nonsense now, to be honest with you.
No, it makes sense. I feel...
I don't know.
In terms of The Last of Us comparison, I kind of feel the opposite, because...
Well, yeah, I knew you would. Like, I'm only saying that just because I'm like, you know what?
It's your most
like,
direct comparison to a feeling of a game last year. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'd still put it above. Like, I know I put Resident Evil 3 as my favorite game from last year. I don't think I put it above Resident Evil 3, just simply because, I don't know, I just really like Resident Evil 3 a lot. But it's definitely up there. Like, it's definitely one of my favorite games that I've ever played. It's definitely not going to be in the top 10 or anything like that. Even if it does get fixed, it's still not going to be there, but it's definitely up there for me personally. I don't know. What are your, like, kind of final thoughts? What do you think about your experience just so far in general? Like, you know, like, based on listening to what I've been talking about parts of the game that you necessarily haven't played, like, is there anything you're excited to play that I've talked about? Like, anything, like, you're like, oh, that sounds really cool.
I like the general idea of all of it.
There's nothing that grabs me that goes, yeah, I need to play that. But that's how I feel about the game in general, is it doesn't grab me. Deus Ex didn't grab me. Cyberpunk just isn't for me.
Is it this? Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask. Is it like the cyberpunk genre, or is it just like
it's the
maybe
genre.
just the writing, or
I find it cool. It's a neat little thing, but the genre just isn't for me. It's a bit too futuristic. I draw lines at that extreme. Same as how I don't like extreme medieval. I kind of like that nice contemporary pace.
Fair enough.
It's a good. It's a good bad game.
A good bad game. Fair enough.
It makes me want to explore the lore of the games, of like the tabletop.
Oh, that's something that's really cool. I think I mentioned this in the relaunch, but there's literally storylines when you have, because there's Johnny flashbacks throughout the game.
Yeah.
And there's literally those storylines are literally taken straight from the tabletop.
Yeah. See,
and you can actually play out the one that's called what's it called? It's called shit, I can't remember what it's called. But like that mission is literally a playable thing that you can play in the tabletop game, and it's like been reimagined as this full mission you can play through as Johnny. It's really good.
It gets me excited for that stuff, for the lore. If there were books around it or the anime coming out in 2 years, I like the idea of those things. The game itself doesn't get me at all, really.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna do as much as I can with it.
And I can definitely say, you will get, quest lines and stuff you will play where you're like, oh, this is actually really fucking cool. Just in terms of, just the storyline of the
I enjoyed the beginning of the Arasaka dude, the guy who killed his dad.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the beginning of that mission where you're going in for the hotel, and I was hoping to case it out a bit more, but then it just kind of devolved into a cutscene. And I was like, okay, but that honestly, that mission could have been a lot better, but it is the highlight so far for me. It
is definitely the highlight of Act 1.
There is a part where you're standing outside and you're doing that thing that every fucking game with large buildings does, where
you jump off it and then
you jump off and slide down.
Yeah,
exactly. I was like, wow, this is cool. And then I looked up a bit, and the game ruined itself for me, because in the distance I could see fucking textures of an unloaded city part glaring through the goddamn smoke, and I was like, all they had to do was have the render distance not go that far.
But it's good. There's some good stuff here, and I kind of don't want that to, it's just a shame that a lot of this, people aren't going to experience it because the game's either unplayable for them, or like I said, they're not going to play it now.
Yeah.
So it is a pity that there's some stuff here that people aren't going to experience, but what can you do? It's what it is now, I guess.
The biggest factor for me against it is I just find the gameplay, the shooting, the driving, and fucking there's something else there. Let's just focus on, I find it, and the world itself, not the little details you brought out, the trash and how it build, the world feels developed.
Just feels empty.
But then, the NPCs, for instance, they fucking do nothing. The
favorite thing is just how they react to when you shoot a gun.
They just crouch and run away. And I'm like, this is fucking nothing.
It's funny.
There's a video online of a guy getting punched in a wheelchair, and he fucking stands up and runs away.
Yeah, and you're like, aren't you meant to be in a wheelchair?
It's like,
Yeah.
I just, it's
I
like,
will say, like, there's definitely some great Johnny V moments throughout this game. And if you actually put the effort into not being a dick to Johnny the whole time, because even though Johnny's a bit of a dick, there's actually a really great character arc there and, like, a character relationship that grows.
okay, look, I need to know this before I continue.
Yeah.
Does he ever say, "Wake the fuck up, samurai, we got a city to burn"?
There hasn't been one single part of the game that I've played.
Fuck's sake. The one part of the trailer that I was like, this is cool, and then I woke up in the fucking junkyard and I was like, it's gonna happen. This is where it turns around for me. And then fucking Takamura is like, come on, we need to go. I'm like, where the fuck was the scene?
Yeah. Although I will say the scene where he does turn up when you're in the apartment, like, that's actually a pretty fucking scary scene.
Yeah, it
in
is.
just
The
the
way
sense
he
of
pushes
what's
you
going
around,
on.
and then you kind of like, he shouldn't be able to push me around, but you realize that there's that much sway in V's head.
It's
that,
like, that's a scary fucking concept, like, just in general.
like I actually kind of wish that the game had made me go through with going to the store to buy a fucking smoke. Whether you used it or not, that's like the whole premise of that startup there. He's like, go get me a fucking cigarette, and you're like,
You can smoke later on, though, and it does please Johnny a lot. There's like a moment later on in the game. It's actually during Judy's questline, and you're at the front of Judy's apartment, and like you can literally smoke a cigarette, and then Johnny's reaction, like, he's, as you inhale the smoke, Johnny's just like inhaling it too, and just like letting all that nicotine get through the body. He's just loving every second of it.
because I would have liked it to force me a bit more to do what Johnny wanted in that opening scenario there.
I haven't played it myself, but there is a bit where there's like this roller coaster that you can fix, and then you actually go on a roller coaster ride with Johnny, and apparently that's a really like a wholesome moment. But I haven't played it because I actually haven't gone to fix the roller coaster, so I haven't played it. But I've seen clips of it, and from what I've heard, it's very wholesome. So
far,
there's a little bit of wholesome Johnny stuff in there.
So far, Johnny is like the minor highlight for me. In his one, Jackie's my favorite character overall so far. I like Jackie. But Johnny's building up, and I do have bias towards Johnny beforehand because I'm not sure if I've explained this. The tabletop maker, who
Yeah.
his original idea for who Johnny Silverhand was David Bowie. David Bowie is my favorite singer-songwriter. And so I keep making that connection. And then I also love Keanu Reeves. So
yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I think we should wrap this up.
Yeah, 4 out of 10.
What bullshit rating are you going to give it?
I'm not even going to give it a bullshit rating. I'm just going to give it a fucking proper rating. That's...
just FYI, proper rating based on your experience so far,
yes,
not based on the game as a whole. Because you never know, that could change later.
Don't worry,
on. Like,
I'm prefacing this. Of what I've played so far, gameplay 4 out of 10. I find it just a bit below average, and if the gunplay doesn't pick up, that's not gonna go anywhere above a 6. World building, characters, 7 to 8 out of 10. I enjoy all the little details that are there that can't be broken by glitches.
I just love this game. I'm definitely going to play it again too. 100% I'm going to play through this game again. I'm going to do a corpo path, and I'm also going to probably play as like go with like that like kind of like hacker, you know, netrunner kind of stealth build, I think, this time round, rather than just focus on gunplay like I did the first time. Because I do know that doing that, even though like your hacking is overpowered, it does actually force you to think about the situations rather than just being like shooting your way through them. So I'm interested to try that. And I'm definitely going to go the corpo path this time rather than nomad, because I want to see kind of how that progresses. Not progresses, but I just want to play that opening because it's the only one I haven't I haven't played it yet. I was going to because you played Street Kid, and I'm like, I have never had any interest in being a Street Kid anyway. So I was like, I really want to play the Corpo opening, so I'm gonna do that. But I might save my next playthrough because there's just other things I want to play. And like I said, I've been playing Cyberpunk for like 2 months now. You know, I'm kind of all Cyberpunked out. Like I'm still gonna play it. Like I've got a full save designed for modding, and CD Projekt Red recently did release official modding tools. So there is, you know, a lot going on. Like I think modding for Cyberpunk's really going to pick up now that those modding tools have been officially released. So I'm interested to see where that goes. So I'll probably still mess around with mods and stuff on my modding save, but in terms of that, I think I'm ready to move on to play something else for now. But I definitely will come back, and I'll probably just wait until the next gen version comes out and kind of see where the game's at then, and then I'll decide whether I'm going to replay it then or whether I'll wait a little bit longer before I play it again. But I'll definitely replay it again before the expansions come out, like 100%. But also, like, the part of me just doesn't want to play it again as well because I've become so attached to my version of V that's in all like the photos that I've taken and things like that. I'm like, that is V to me, and I'm kind of like, I don't want to make a new V. You know, I don't want to do that. So I don't know, but luckily there's a save editor where you can actually save your character preset and put it onto another one. But I do think what I will do is, if I do play it again, I'm actually going to go for the E3 2018 demo preset, because that's actually in the game files. You can't select that face option and you can't select that hair option in the character creator screen, but it's actually in the game dev files, and modders have found it and actually now made mods where you can download these mods and install them, and you can actually play as E3 2018 V. Which I think is cool because I really love her design in that trailer. Like, I don't know if you remember the trailer, but she had
I don't think I ever watched that trailer.
She had like the shaved. I'll send you a picture of what she looks like, but she had like, she just looked really cool, and you can now actually play as that version of V, which is really cool. Because that was meant to be the default V choice. That's what that was meant to be, and then they took it out of the game and replaced it with whatever the default V is now, and it just looks fucking terrible. I'm looking forward to playing it again, though. I will say that. Eventually, when I get to it. You know what? I think that'll wrap it up, Lewin.
Bullshit rating, 11.5 out of 20. There we go. We still got it in here.
Nice. But that's it for this episode. We have gone over 2 hours, but you know what? That's okay. You know, like I said, it's going to be one of those things that's going to take us probably a few episodes to kind of get the hang of it. But I do think in terms of like us talking about the actual topic this episode, I do think we pretty much kept on track for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't think we really went off on tangents, which is really good. So, you know, like I said, it's a work in progress. We'll perfect the structure of the podcast. But as always, you can find the social media links in the description. And you know what? I stream every Monday now, so maybe go and, you know, if you like this and you want to come and hang out on stream, come and do that. It's a good time. But yeah, our next episode is going to be about Mandalorian Season 2.
Whoa.
So
something I've got a bit more knowledge in.
Look, we have these topics every now and then. It's like last episode you were talking about the PS5, and I'm like, I have nothing to add to this conversation, really, do I? And then I talked about Destiny, and you were just like silent the whole time. You know, like, I mean, it happens every now and then. Sometimes we're going to cover things on the podcast.
It be what it be, but we need to cover all our bases, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you know more, sometimes I know more. It's just, you know, it is what it is.
It'd be that way.
But yeah, we'll be talking about Mandalorian next episode. So that's exciting. Not going to be a full spoiler cast. We're not going to break down the entire show, but we are going to talk about some bits we like. We're going to share our thoughts of the season as a whole, and share where we're excited to go with, because there's a whole. I mean, we might as well talk a little bit about all the Star Wars stuff that was announced, you know, a while ago as well, and kind of like where we see it all going. But that's going to be next episode, so tune into that. That'll be later on this month, probably in a couple of weeks or so, I reckon. But yeah, if you are listening to this on YouTube, just so you know, these podcasts are you're listening to it late for starters. So what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is like a week old by this point. So, but if you want to listen to these when they release, you can head on over to Spotify and the other podcast platforms. They'll be releasing early over there. And yeah, I reckon that'll do us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to just take us out?
Take us out?
Or,
Okay. Alright.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can attempt that, I suppose. It's been a while.
You can attempt it like CD Projekt Red attempts to make a GTA world.
So I just cut off mid-sentence? Is that what you're telling me to do? Thanks for
I prefer you actually get through a full sentence if you don't mind.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you all later on the flippity flip.